Okay. Thanks for your patience, folks. I'll call the meeting to order. It is 6:35, and nice to see everyone. Welcome. We have our first, our consent agenda. On that, we have our prior minutes from the April 2nd meeting. We also have a number of policy reads. Any discussion or questions about the consent agenda? No? Okay, I'll make a motion then to accept that consent agenda. We'll do that by roll. Miranda?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Audrey?
Aye.
Arlene?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Aye. Michelle.
Michelle, sorry.
Where's our name tag?
I know, sorry, apologies. And Mary is an aye. Okay, so that brings us, I don't believe there's any need, Lynn, any need to reprioritize the flow of the meeting? Okay, great. All right, so that brings us to our public comment. You all are here for the spotlight, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bravo. And we don't have anyone else in the waiting room virtually, Courtney, no? It's just who I see there?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so no public comment tonight. Then that brings us, Sandy, to the Montgomery Spotlight.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. My spotlight for this evening is going to be to highlight our Blue Interactive Playground. It is in the gym, and it was purchased at the end of last year with some grant money and shared through the NMV district. So it travels from school to school. It's a fairly large piece of equipment. It gets packed up and moved in a truck. And the month of May is Montgomery's turn to have it. So we've been having a lot of fun with it. It's quite interesting because there are so many topics to choose from. There can be educational topics. You can do math, you can do reading. Our PE teacher is using it for health class because you can build a nutritious meal. There's all kinds of things that this thing can do. There's hundreds of choices in there. So I have 3 of my favorite Montgomery Elementary students from the 4th grade here to demonstrate the Lou. I have Arlo Jackson, Amelia Como, and Natalie McGinley, and they are going to lead us down the hallway and show us how this thing works, right? Okay, field trip.
Nice.
With Richard Douglas was not able to be here tonight, and he's been using it in PE class. I think Renee Davidson has been using it in our LEAPS program just recently in the after school program. I think it was Ellen's fitness group. Did you use it today in fitness?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, I tried it out when we first got it, and I will tell you, my heart rate was up just for trying to throw it at a target, the moving target. So we'll show you that too. There's some that are just definitely for PE type of thing, but you can compete against people, so there could be like 3 targets over there. Okay. Ready? Okay, Jen, what did you say?
We're going to start with the problem solving.
Problem solving. Okay, show us how it's done. Super great.
Do you want to do the macro next?
Sure.
We're going to go 1 minute.
Oh, so close.
It's the grub one. Oh, melon. Oh, yeah, melon. Maybe I think it was the one with the diamonds. There, down. Down. Smelling one. That one. That one. No, never mind. No.
So this one they have to see the picture and then smell. So you have to decipher what the picture is and then smell. I know. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna do one more word. All right. And then we have some physical activity ones. We're gonna do target. Yeah.
Okay, so would a few of you like to try it out? Don't be shy now. You gonna put the targets up, put up 3? The 3 of you are gonna have to convince someone out here to try it. 3 people. They're gonna force somebody. Go hand the ball to somebody. Go hand the ball to someone, Natalie. Over there. Go hand the ball. Take your pick.
Oh,
I
perfect.
appreciate it. Thank you. All right, oh, look.
Yeah. So, all right, I want one of you guys with me now. Come on. help
Can
me
I get
out
a
here.
helper?
All right. All right.
High five. All right, good job.
You guys each want a ball?
Oh, guys, girls.
Okay, so we'll just do normal.
Okay, I'll tell you where to throw it, how's that?
Arlo, which one do you usually do?
Oh, target per column.
Target for color.
And then you do 3 teams.
Okay, ready? I put it on for 1 minute.
recruit.
Okay, so you have to hit the target. Don't hit me that.
I'm using a. Quick, give him one there. Yeah.
Good job, kids.
Thank you.
Get up there. Good work.
All right, that is, were they doing one more? Oh, no, okay. I think that. All right, well, unless you want to play some more games, that concludes my spotlight.
Okay.
It is funny.
I did when I was at my school too.
Sandy, that was fabulous. Anything else you wanted to
No, I
talk
just thought
about?
since we had that, that would be
Yeah.
a good time for everybody.
Yeah,
to
it's so
check it out.
interesting. I've never seen anything like that. It's awesome.
There's so much to it.
I liked I like that there was some that are cooperative, and that teamwork piece is really excellent to see them kind of collaborating and strategizing and working together like
And
that.
there's levels, I mean, you can make it a lot harder too.
Yeah, of course. So you can have kind of gradation for age progression and such too. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much.
Just want to thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there because I was really excited to hear that that's what you were sharing about tonight.
Yeah, you were gonna play.
I was going to play, but I'm trying to save you all from whatever I have. And
Thank you.
Yeah, we
Thank you.
appreciate that, Lynn.
Well,
Thank
you can just stop by another day this month and
So you have it for all of May.
yeah, something like that.
And does it go to all the schools across the SU, not just NMV,
It's
ER
I
too?
think it's an NMV.
We have two. So
Oh, okay. There's a dedicated one for ER. Great.
we were able to purchase that through the ESSER investment money, the COVID money that we were able to get. And we saved money until the end to really focus on highly engaging materials for our students.
Yeah.
This, I think, is one of our most popular purchases. It wasn't something that we could get for every school, but by pooling that resource, we were able to get those that we could transport in the schools. And I've gotten really positive feedback from all the principals that have had it, and have gotten to see some students using it in their PE classes, and they've been very engaged. And I do know that there are some, it's mostly up through, I think, grade 8-ish. There are some high school things, but there's content in there too. So it's really exciting to think about all the ways that you can use that tool.
Awesome. That's great. All right. Thank you so much, Sandy.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it. So Morgan, you're up with your business report.
And I have no action items tonight, just a few informational things. I've got the Berkshire Boiler project on there, which will probably be on every agenda for the next 8 months or so. No real update there. We're working on getting the contract signed and get that work started over the summer. Sheldon Boiler project, as you know from the last meeting, we've been struggling to get anyone to quote that. I had a conversation with Vern, I believe it was this morning, it might have been yesterday, about that challenge, the timeline now that we're already butting up against summer. And he's fairly confident that he can keep those boilers going for another year. So we're gonna kind of regroup and see if we can go out again in a better bidding environment to do that work. It's a little bit challenging because it's a steam boiler, which if we convert to hot water would require some pretty significant infrastructure changes that I can't go into any details because that's about the extent of my knowledge, but we can get Vern there. So we may look at replacing it with another steam boiler. Also in the background is knowing that there's some level, albeit pretty low, level of PCBs in that section of the building, and so also a little gun shy about putting in an incredibly expensive piece of equipment in there before we really know what's going on with that. And then in terms of PCBs in Berkshire, we have a report that is just about ready to go back to the state based on some intermediary testing. We will probably need to do some more sampling and more testing in that building based on what we found so far. Vern is also looking into the possibility of renting some modular space. Gavin can talk about the pressures on the building, but just not wanting to go through another year because of some class size changes there without those 2 classrooms. And so we're looking at a modular would probably be somewhere near the front of the building. And we would likely need to kind of go through a formal bid process to get something in place, but we would bring that to you at a future meeting, and that's something that we would likely tap the Berkshire Capital Reserve Fund for. And unless there are any questions on any of that or your current year budget, that is all I have. We are through the reconsideration window for the FY26 budget. I think we weren't quite there at your last meeting, so that one is locked down and we can start worrying about the year after.
And for those, if we move toward the temporary classrooms, would we be able to rent them, lease them, or would they be like something that we would purchase, or it's still kind of TBD?
It's TBD, and Vern is looking into that. We know that rentals exist. We decided not to go that route in Sheldon because we felt like we were going to have them for long enough.
Right.
In Berkshire, it feels a little different, so we will come back with prices and say, okay, if it's going to be cheaper, if it's really only going to be 2 years or 3 years, at the max, would it be more cost effective to rent it, or would we still be better off buying it and then trying to sell it at the end of the project?
And the holdup is that we couldn't just the money that we would use to either rent or lease or buy these modular classrooms, why can we not just put that toward just doing the PCB remediation on our own? Is that because that has to go through this state process and it's long and winding and arduous?
Yes, it's that, and it's because we haven't identified all of these substances that have PCBs. So we know that window caulking and the chalkboard caulking were tested as positive, so we know that we have to abate that. The most recent round of testing was looking to try to determine the extent of how far any PCBs may have leached from that caulk into the cinder block. And that's the point where we've kind of done that testing, and we still don't have a clear cut line yet of where we know, we can go from this side in and remediate that. And so that's the piece that we're trying to figure out with the next round of testing. And we have to propose it to the state and get the state to okay it if we have any hope to recoup that money in the future.
Right. So we can't just kind of take it on ourselves with whatever funds we would be putting toward those modular classrooms. It would be better to have those temporary classrooms and go through the whatever hurdles we need to go through with the state.
Right.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay. Anything else, Morgan?
That's it from me. Unless you have questions, and I'll hop on with Lynn for the
Great.
updates later.
Okay. Lynn,
So-
you're up.
I will just add to the PCB piece. I think it's really important to highlight that this really is not about, the money, it will cost money to know, to remediate, but it's about still not knowing exactly what we're remediating because we've had to follow every testing deadline, and you go through a process, and then you find something or you don't find something, and then you have to keep going. So we have to follow the rules because we are part of that lawsuit, and we have to make sure that we are being attentive to what those requirements are. It's pretty stringent what the expectations are.
Right, so we can't just go rogue
No,
and do it
would not
ourselves.
be what's in the best interest
Yeah.
of the district. So if we could find a temporary solution and hold the course, we think we're getting much closer. We hope we're getting much closer to being able to determine where the root is coming from. And then we'll be able to figure out what the remediation plan is after that,
That makes sense. Thanks, Lynn.
of course. Okay, so I will shift into mine. I think Courtney is going to share some slides with you. I will start with personnel, and you have some action items under new hires. You have Allie Bliss at Bakersfield, this is grade 1 teacher. Derek Lewis, also at Bakersfield, school counselor. Vina Reed at Montgomery for grade 1, and Andrew Cook for middle school ELA at Sheldon. Andrew was a literacy interventionist this year, and he was grant funded, so he's shifting over into that position. So I would ask for a motion to approve those new hires.
I'll make that motion. We'll do that by roll. Miranda,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Audrey,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Mary is an aye.
We have some resignations in Bakersfield, and David Benzel, he is the current grade 4 teacher. Mara Dan Weber at Sheldon, middle school ELA teacher, and Julie Cattell, the Sheldon STEM teacher. Julie's staying with us, but she's filling the instructional coach role that Marty Valenter has held. So those are the resignations. I will ask the board to make a motion to approve those.
I can make the motion.
Thank you, Michelle. Miranda,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Audrey,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
Michelle, John,
Aye.
Mary is an aye.
Then you have 4 support staff resignations. Those are informational. And you have some open positions, not a lot of open positions. In Bakersfield, they're looking for a grade 4-5 teacher and a middle school ELA teacher. In Berkshire, they're still looking for a half-time health teacher and a paraeducator. In Montgomery, they have a grade 4 teacher position, evening custodian. In Sheldon, they're looking for middle school math intervention, and middle school literacy interventionist. I think they're close on that, but not formally done yet. They're also now, because Julie's leaving, looking for a STEAM teacher, and we have the NMV STEAM teacher as well, not on the list. I do want to just say that we had our return rate contracts extensions were due on May 1st, and in total we have 95% of our staff returning this year, so we're happy with the return rate. Courtney, can you go down to the next slide?
Sorry, it wasn't working.
It's okay, no worries. So students, there's our monthly test of our principals. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with your students? Tell us which picture belongs to which school.
Well, I know Shakespeare's up there.
It's probably you first then.
That looks like Shakespeare from Montgomery on the left.
The second picture is Sheldon. It's third grade classroom. They were working on historical narratives, and that student was very proud of what they were drawing or writing. I can't tell exactly which part of it.
East County.
Oh, okay. So maybe it wasn't the historical narratives. I thought that was the picture you picked.
Cameron help.
Yeah, because I can't see it.
Authors, an author and illustrator came.
Oh,
to your
that's right. Oh,
school.
that's what that was
That
for.
looks like
Yes.
a chip.
It's a squirrel. It was Peaches the squirrel. The author's from New York. She came and did an author visit and taught them. She does art and the writing of her children's books. So she taught them how to draw peaches. But that is definitely my third grader. So I recognize the student. So it was when the author Chandra. Oh, I can't remember her last name. She writes the Peaches series. That's all I know. It's a squirrel. It's wonderful. And then she taught them all how to draw it. So if you come to Sheldon, you'll see a wall full of squirrel drawings. It's very cute.
And then the third one, I believe that is Berkshire, and that was during our Green Up Day last Friday, where we went into the community and helped clean up our community, picking up trash, and we filled up quite a few bags on that day.
I got a couple of boys doing some community service, not in a bad way, on the right-hand side there, painting dugouts at the school.
That's great. Thank you all for sharing. So I'm going to own that I put in winter star assessment results and realized that I really meant that to say spring, and the window is still open, so I can't give you that until June. I was thinking that it closed on May 1st, so I'm sorry about that error. You already received the winter star assessment results, so we'll have a more comprehensive data report in June. I know Gab and Leah are going to help me work on that. So Morgan and I are going to tag team this. We've talked a lot about H454 with boards, and we're trying to keep you updated from month to month. So as you know, H454 was approved through the House, and then it went over to the Senate Education Committee. So that bill now moved out of the Senate Education Committee and over to Senate Finance on Friday. So I sent you all, as well as all the administrators, a side-by-side comparison of the differences between what was in the House bill that passed and what currently is in that, where the Senate is with it. And I have highlighted a few things. I won't go through all of the details, but I'll give you the high level. There's some new language in there about special education funding, which is something we're following closely. We have some concerns we want to make sure are attended to so that, it is in line with what we've all been working towards with Act 173 and our MTSS system work. We don't want to create a system that incentivizes additional students being identified as having disabilities. We want to make sure that this is something that is really thoughtful and aligns with the MTSS work that Vermont has shifted towards. Not that we don't want students identified, but we don't want any sort of system that would have funding tied to identification. We want to make sure it's adequately funded. One of the differences between the House bill and the Senate bill is the House bill really was moving away from supervisory union structures, and we're seeing more language in support of supervisory union structures in the Senate bill. There's language in there that protects tuitioning a little more strongly in the Senate bill. There are changes related to the district boundary committees in the House bill that were focused on getting people with expertise in education, former superintendents and business managers, along with some representatives and some senators to be a part of that committee. In the Senate bill, they've removed the education expertise and have focused solely on members of House and Senate working on that, four members from each chamber. So there's a change in membership. There's also a change in timeline. It's moved up just a little bit related to that boundary committee. Class sizes, one of the things that I had talked to you all about is that if education is going to be more affordable, it is really important that people are able to look at scale. And by looking at the districts, that's one way to look at scale. It is not going to have the kind of impact financially if you only look at district instead of looking at all of it in terms of the size. The class sizes that the House put in was intended to help to get to a better scale with our system. The Senate took out the class size recommendations. There were some language changes that I noticed in there related to independent schools. There had been language added in the House side that would require independent schools receiving public money to follow the same rules in our education quality standards as our public schools do, and that's been removed. There was also language that was added in, there's a foundation formula that is built into both the House and the Senate bill, which means that there are some weights, like you're going to get X dollars per student with some additional weights for different students' needs, like poverty and emerging multilingual, special education, things like that, potentially. But everybody's gonna get the same amount. There's language that was added on the Senate side that if there's an independent school that is attached to, if they have a CTE program within their independent school, they don't get the foundation amount, they would get their actual cost. So that was a change in there. There also, where you could send your tuition dollars on the House side they were trying to tighten that up, so it was really within the state of Vermont. It would only be the independent schools that had 51% or more of their students were being tuitioned from the public schools, or were Vermont tuition students. And that has changed. They lowered that threshold, I believe it was 25%. And then they expanded beyond the Vermont boundary to within a 25-mile radius of schools that could meet that threshold. So it would be like they would have to have had 25% of their students would have had to have been from Vermont during this school year. And those are kind of the highlights. Morgan, what did I miss?
I don't think you missed any of the details. I just, remind folks that it's been through only one committee in the Senate. As you said, Senate Finance has picked it up yesterday. They have started to take some testimony, but as of the last time I checked, they have not offered any amendments yet. In terms of kind of the direction of the House and the direction of the Senate, at least Senate Education so far, is really they seem to have taken out any sort of cost containment, as you kind of said, or as you alluded to, change of language, including putting supervisor unions back in order to kind of protect tuition going to private schools. And they've largely decided not to weigh in on the changes between duties between the Agency of Education and the State Board of Education, which the House spent a lot of time on. In a normal year, I'd say Senate Finance would focus solely on the funding formula, but Senate Education had spent most of their time on the funding formula and stripping the education stuff out of the bill. So it's really hard to predict where this is going to go in the next week.
So the journey forward for this bill is it's now in Senate Finance. We think they'll have it a week or maybe 2 weeks after I had heard, but then the bill will go to the full Senate floor, and you're likely to see, just like we did in the House, amendments made from the floor, and so it would take some time to try to work its way through the Senate. And then because you have a bill that looked different on the House side than what's likely going to get through on the Senate side, they would then go to conference committee, Morgan?
Correct.
Which would be members from each side, a small group of members from each side, trying to come up with a compromise that both chambers could support, and that's how it would get across the finish line. So we know that we're at a place where the governor has been very clear that he wants something coming out of this legislative session. And so they're expecting that this could be a longer legislative session than normal as this bill works through. But I would just say it's really wise to stay in tune with this, read what's coming to you from the Vermont School Boards Association. Know that you as private citizens can contact your legislators. I'm quite sure that Lisa's inbox is probably full related to this bill. and has been throughout much of the legislative session. But I just think it's consequential. These are significant changes to Vermont's education system, and it's really important that we're all paying attention, and I will continue to do my best to keep you informed, and forward you information as it comes my way, but definitely look for those alerts that come from the SBA that just highlight the information from, about any changes that are coming with this. So timeline wise, it's difficult to say because different parts of the House bill and the Senate bill have varying timelines. So it is, some elements they'll start the study committee in 25, but then there are things that would start in 26 and things that would start in 27, and sometimes there's language that's 29. So it's really, I expect that whatever they come up with, if it includes many of the things that are in there, we'll see a variety of different timelines. So it'll be kind of some things will take longer to get to than others is what I kind of expect. But we'll keep watching and waiting for this as it molds. Any questions from anyone?
So just to clarify, Lynn, so the House has passed their H.454, the Senate has passed theirs, but they're not exactly the same, and so now do they do a reconciliation? Is that what?
So
Well,
the
it's only
Senate,
passed out of Senate Education right now.
Oh, not the full Senate.
So now this week it's in Senate Finance received that yesterday, Tuesday, because it left Senate Ed on Friday. So now Senate Finance has to work on it. They'll get it to the place where they think they feel good about it. They'll vote on that. If they approve it at that point, it'll go to the full Senate. And then if approved in the full Senate, because it'll be likely different than the House's version, then it's conference committee.
and the way it'll play out on the Senate floor is 454 will come up, Senate Education's proposal of amendment, so that the bill that we're kind of talking about and comparing will come up for a vote. That'll either go up or down at that point. Likely Senate Finance will then have another amendment, either that changes what Senate Ed does or it throws out what Senate Ed does and puts in a brand new bill. And at some point after those amendments all pass, the body as a whole will kind of vote on whatever's amended. That amended bill is what goes to conference committee once that's eventually approved.
Is this the bill that would decide the number of districts within the state?
It
Yes.
is,
It is.
neither version that seems to be floating out there, the House version or the Senate Ed proposal of amendment, specifies an exact number yet.
Yeah, I thought I saw something about like 12, and I was like, but
Well,
I could have
They,
been.
what this bill does, and I think that's Audrey.
It is, yeah.
What this bill does is it creates the committee that has to, they have to look at everything, and they have to, I think on the House side, they have to come up with like a minimum of 3 versions of maps, and on the Senate side, I think it said at least 1.
Okay.
So they have to come up with, here are the ways in which we could split this up. There are all kinds of numbers floating out there. 12, 15, 17,
Yeah.
5 from the governor's proposal.
Right.
So the number still remains to be seen. We don't know where they'll land. And we won't know that until next legislative session. Any other questions?
One other legislative update that I want to put out there is that the yield bill has now passed the Senate. That's a bill that starts in the House. The Senate did not make any amendments. They voted it out, I think, 27-2. So that is likely going to the governor's desk, I would say in the next week or so. The yield amount that was passed is $43 higher than what we warned our budgets with, and a yield going up drives tax rate down. So it will mean that if it's signed by the governor, tax rates will be a little less than a penny lower than we had projected when we put this out to your voters. So that's good news. Early on in the session, there was some speculation that the governor might veto the yield bill if he didn't get what he was after in the transformation proposal. But I've not heard anything one way or the other on that, and it seemed to go through both the House and the Senate without any controversy.
I do think there are some other bills that are important. I'll be honest, I'm not following them as carefully as I'm following this bill. This is taking up a lot of our attention. I know that there's a bill related to ICE and access to schools. I don't know the bill name, or I don't even know which chamber it's in. I know that they're talking about cell phones has come up, and I don't have a clear sense of if that's going to make it through. I got this from an update last week, and as I said, I haven't paid attention as much. There's a bill that's contemplating I've told you all about this before, our preschool world is a little complex because Agency of Human Services is connected to preschool as well as the Agency of Education. And right now, early ed teachers are licensed through the Agency of Education, and there's a bill that would allow Agency of Human Services to also license early educators, and I suspect that that is connected to the law that Morgan helped me with the act. 177?
Or once, that sounds right.
So whichever bill allows for universal access to preschool, so students can attend preschool anywhere, and they can take like a tuition voucher to a private pre-K. So they can only access that if they have a licensed educator. So I think it's connected to that would be my suspicion. I no other bills that are jumping to my mind that are consequential for education, but Lisa, can you jump in? Am I missing anything that you can think of?
I don't think so. I think you hit on the highlights, the cell phone bill, the early educator bill, which actually was in my committee this week, just hearing preliminary testimony on that. Because currently it's attached to the Office of Professional Regulations, kind of annual bill or biannual bill. I don't think there's much else that the Education Committee is taking up right now that would be of interest to this group.
I think healthcare bargaining is one thing that I didn't say that I do think is consequential. So I think there's testimony being taken on the process for how that healthcare bargaining plays out between the NEA and the board bargaining at the state level. So
yeah, and I don't know what committee is actually taking that up because it's not on House Education's webpage.
I got something about it today, but I don't know which committee either. But just know that they are talking about that and they are taking testimony. And healthcare is really important because it is one of the largest cost drivers when it comes to increases to our budget. We've seen significant increases in those premiums over the past handful of years. So we're paying attention to that one too. Okay, Courtney, now I think I'm ready for the next slide. So I will give a negotiation status report. So our support staff, we have reached a tentative 3-year agreement. And that agreement was sent to you in your board packet. So we'll be looking for the board to move to ratify that agreement. This was, we met with the support staff, 5 times, I think, Morgan, and where we are is we have to offer wage and hour notifications on May 15th as per their collective bargaining agreement. So the union is having their ratification meetings early next week. We have this board tonight, we have the ER board next week, and we're also having the FNESU board have a special meeting next week because we would also like to get this ratified. And if our 3 boards and the union's teams can get ratified, their wage and hour notifications can reflect actually what they're making for next year, which is what the hope is of both sides. Any questions on the support staff agreement? Or anything you want to add, Morgan?
Nope, I think you got it.
And you'd like a motion to ratify that,
Yes, please.
correct? Okay, excellent. I'll make that motion. Miranda,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Audrey,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
John, Mary is an aye.
So, teacher negotiations, we met for our 5th session, I think that was just last week. And the union declared impasse. So Morgan, I don't have my notes on that, I'm gonna ask you to help me out with some of these pieces in terms of details, but I will say that where we are now is where after the 5 sessions, still pretty far apart in terms of where the union negotiating team and the board negotiating team are. And so both sides are working, the attorney for the union and the attorney for the board are working to select a mutually agreed upon mediator, and we'll be heading to mediation to hopefully have someone help us get closer to one another. So Morgan, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I'd just say that we were able in the last meeting to come to a tentative agreement on probably about half of the CBA. It's not the consequential half, but it shows some forward momentum. We were in a similar place, I think, with the support staff last year, and after 2 sessions with a mediator, we were able to come to an agreement. Not only able to come to an agreement for that next year, it kind of set us up for a relatively smooth negotiation process that we just concluded with them. So it's frustrating that we couldn't do it all on our own, but going to a mediator is not necessarily a bad thing, and hopefully we'll be able to get someone locked in and scheduled fairly quickly and move through that process quickly.
Any questions or comments? Okay, Morgan already took 2 of these off my plate. So we've already talked about PCBs and the boiler replacement. You did talk about Berkshire with the boiler replacement too, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about PFAs. So this is something that is tested for in the water. And Morgan and I both with Vern, I'll be transparent, I don't feel like an expert in this area. But what we know about the PFAs is that right now, Berkshire is not above the threshold, but the threshold is going to change. And I don't know who the they is, Morgan, you're gonna have to help me with that, but we've been approached that we qualify for a federal grant that there are a few ways that we can try to remediate. We have a level of PFA, it's changing to, the federal level is changing to 0. And I don't remember the number of years, but a few years down the road, and right now I think we're at like 4. So we could, the town just we have supplied the town of Berkshire, the town clerk, and the town garage with water, since as long as I've been, around. So decades, I know that that's been happening. They just drilled their own well. We asked if they would consider, or we didn't ask, the engineers asked if they would consider putting the school on their well, and that wasn't something that they were interested in doing. We could also drill our own well, another well, but we don't know why there are PFAs in the water. And if we drilled our own well, we don't know if that would actually fix the problem. But what would fix the problem is building an ionic treatment space so that the water would be treated before it enters the building. So right now, the funding related to that is 100%. And so Morgan, I'm gonna ask you to fill in holes because I don't think I got all of that, but we just need the board to, not fitting to a project, but give us a direction. We want us to continue to move forward exploring this option and then bring back a proposal to this board.
Yeah, I think you got the highlights. It's we've been working with Agency of Natural Resources in Vermont, and you're right. The levels, acceptable levels, are changing in the future, and so we're meeting current levels. We don't think we're going to be able to meet future levels. There are two different types of remediation that you can do to pull the substances out of the water. This is the one that was recommended by the initial engineering firm that did the first stage of the work. We could also go out there and just try to drill a new well. After talking with them and talking internally with Vern and Lynn, we feel like we could be spending a lot of our own money doing that and just find more wells with this substance because it's somewhere in the groundwater.
Did the town get a clean well when they drilled?
They did,
Okay.
as far as we know.
Well, I don't know if the town had to test for PFAs though.
Right, I'm not sure either. So at the moment, as Lynn said, this project, if we go forward, would be 100% covered. It is federal money, so there's some concern about that. But we're, we will continue to ask those questions. The next stage for us is we've, told them that we're interested in continuing the conversation, and so the engineering firm that A&R has hired will now go and actually spec out what a project would look like, rather than just say, we think the treatment plant's gonna cost $1 million. This is where it would be located. This is, how we would bid it out. And so there's no commitment yet
And
for
with
the
the
board.
longevity of those types of filtration systems,
Right, and the annual cost, which is significant.
right? Filters and whatnot. I mean,
And the
that's
materials that
very
you then
expensive.
have to dispose of.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think the thing that we're concerned about is we know we're not gonna meet the future levels and we're going to have to remediate at that point. So we're in a place where we have an opportunity that I am hopeful about, but also concerned about because it is federal dollars. And we've seen that other federal dollars have been pulled back recently. So I think that there's work to do, but we just wanted to tip the board that we've started this conversation and make sure that you're okay with us continuing down this road. It's not committing you to anything at this point. And we would bring back a fuller report with a proposal to you if you want us to continue to explore.
Seems like if it's 100% and we're not locked in.
Yeah, there's certainly no harm in pursuing it, and if we know now, it's good that we have such a, kind of forewarning on this, that we will no longer meet that threshold, and we certainly want to make sure that the water everyone is drinking in that building is safe to consume, so. So
So
Lynn,
we'll,
do you want a motion on that, or just some guidance that the board feels supportive of at least exploring the options?
so that we don't have the same thing happen again where I shake my head yes and Morgan shakes his head no, I'm gonna let Morgan take that one.
Morgan was already shaking his head no.
So we were both gonna shake our head no, that, I didn't think we needed a motion either.
So no motion needed.
And obviously the kids, like the safety of the water is primary, but is there any question that they're gonna change they're not gonna go to that new standard? They're not gonna lower it?
I don't
You haven't heard
I don't
anything about
know
that?
for sure, but I think the standard is locked
It's
in.
locked in.
I can say I was at a meeting regarding this, and it kind of seemed like a foregone conclusion that it was going to be a matter of like a year or two where we would be out of compliance.
Gavin, was that a federal, I was trying to remember that, I think it's the federal level has changed. Right?
I think there's a bunch of compounds that fit under this category, and they seem to have dropped 2 of them down to 0. Vermont's current level of action is 4. I'm assuming that's parts per million, but
But then now the federal will be 0, so we'll need to be in compliance with that.
I don't know the exact answer to that. I know that when I was at the meeting, it was members from the Vermont State Department of Health. So I wasn't sure though whether this was federal or state.
And Berkshire's the only one that's not at 0 already?
So we're the only one that
Just a good
owns
question.
our own water system.
Oh, so we don't even know for sure.
Yeah, we are, so the water systems for every other one of our 5 towns are owned by the town. So we pay for water and they're responsible for doing all of the testing. Berkshire has been in this really strange situation for a long time. Not a lot of schools own their own water system. So it's been a little bit more of a lift related to water in Berkshire over the last 20 years. Lisa knows we've had to do a few things over the years in Berkshire. So that's all we needed was guidance, Mary, and I don't do anything else.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lynn. Appreciate it. So we'll move on to our principal reports. Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, we started with some great vibes with Sandy and her kids, and we're not there now. So let's get us back talking about kids. That's why we're here, right? So the only thing that I would like to share on top of the board report was that, and Lynn kind of previewed, or that there's a preview coming for our STAR assessment. But our 8th graders, if you remember in the fall I shared, there were a lot of reds, right? So we go blue, green, yellow, reds, or a lot of reds. Like more than half of my 8th grade were red in the area of reading. As of today, there was only 1 left. And so I want to highlight the work that our entire school is doing, the culture of learning, the interventionists, the enriching that people are doing has just been, it's been a blessing, and so it's been a lot of fun to be a part of. So thank you. Let's keep talking about kids. Can you do it? Let's do it. Okay.
Thanks so much, Kevin. Gavin?
So the only 2 things that I would like to highlight are we have just started our STAR testing this past week, so I am very excited to see the improvement that we'll see based on just the level of rigor in both the testing environment and just the increase of rigor that I've seen firsthand through frequent classroom observations. I'm very confident that we're going to see some considerable growth as compared to last year. In addition to that, one of the common trends this past year with Berkshire, even as I was writing this most recent iteration of the board notes, is just the sheer increase that we've been able to do in bringing the community back into the school, which I think has really been one of the pillars that from day one, I really wanted to start strengthening and getting more community and family involvement in the school. And then finally, I am going to have to disappoint Kevin. I'm sorry. We had our whole staff, our whole campus morning meeting this morning, which was a lot of fun, and We actually, a couple of highlights, one including a fashion show where our 3rd and 4th graders developed costumes that with our kindergarten class, and then our kindergartners got to wear the outfits and showcase them to the school, which was a lot of fun. And then we did also have our staff member of the month, and this month it was Mr. Brad Gabry, who is our school nurse. He joined us mid-year this past year. He has made a huge impact in forming relations with students and promoting health and safety on campus. So I wanted to take this moment to congratulate him as well.
Nice. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gavin. That's wonderful. Sandy, I know you did the spotlight, but anything else you'd like to highlight from your report?
I would like to say that we had the Ryan's story presentation from John Halligan last week for our 5th through 8th graders, which is about bullying. John Halligan lost his son to suicide because of bullying, and it was so emotional with our students. But I'm really proud of the fact that the reason it came to be is because 2 6th grade girls walked into my office a couple of months ago and just wanted to talk to me about mean words they were hearing. And they literally said, "We're worried because if so-and-so says something mean to her and she goes home and she might be going through some things at home, and what if that makes her want to take her own life?" I mean, that was their thought process of that, what those mean words could do. And, we talked for a while, and I said, I think it's time that we get John Halligan back in here. So I was just proud of them for just bringing that to me and expressing themselves just so clearly. And I thanked them after the presentation for making that happen. So it was emotional. We had tissue boxes floating all over the place. I mean, it was very much worth having him here. So on a positive note, Melissa Haberman has spent a ton of time, our art teacher, moving all of the beautiful artwork out of the hallways. So you didn't get to see it in the hallways, but it's at the MCA this coming weekend and the next weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And she does a wonderful job setting up that art show all on her own time. So if you're looking for something to do, please visit the MCA and see our beautiful student artwork.
Nice.
That's all for me.
Nice. Thank you so much, Sandy. Definitely go check it out this weekend. Terry Sue.
2 things. Our 6th and 7th graders in STEM right now are, I'm sure some of you did this when you were in high school, doing an egg drop.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our current 5th grade teachers, he had the wonderful idea that whoever wins that, the teachers are going to compete to do one, and whoever wins that on our field day at the end of the year, we're going to have the fire department come out and raise them both to see if the staff or the students win the egg drop. So that's going to be something cool coming up with some community support. And then 3 weeks from today at 1 p.m. during the school day is our K4 music concert. The 5/8 is the next night. But if you want to hear 2nd graders belt out "Eye of the Tiger," please come to our concert because it is amazing. I jokingly suggested the song to our music teacher, Chris Comstock, and he ran with it, and the 2nd graders are loving it. So they were all excited. We're singing "Eye of the Tiger." So there you go. That's my updates.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Terry Sue. Appreciate it. Okay. So for board business, anyone have any future agenda items we want to stay attuned to? It sounds as though, Lynn, you and Morgan will circle back with information about boilers in Sheldon and water in Berkshire, water and boilers in Berkshire, and obviously the ongoing PCB stuff.
Yes.
Anything else at the moment? Our next meeting will be June 4th, and we will be in Sheldon. Okay, anything else tonight, folks? Okay, well then I will make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, everyone, drive safely home. Thank you so much.